What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more video game music. And we're back with another tune from the Halo universe, this time from the very first Halo, called Halo Combat Evolved 2001. It was a revolutionary game overall. It became the face of the early phase of Xbox. And for me, it was a pivotal game in that up until that point, I never really played first person shooters. Bond had become big by that time. A lot of my friends played it, I never did. But it was the sci-fi and space exploratory aspect of the Halo Combat Evolved campaign that drew me in. Now, the gameplay was great and it made me a fan of that type of game. So again, for me, it was a game that drew me to a genre that I had never really played before. I think it's the most epic gaming franchise in terms of the narrative across the games, and ultimately I play Halo in its larger sense, not just the first game, but still Combat Evolved. Up into the present day, big shout out to my friend Chris up in Alaska, who I met playing Halo 2 in 2004, and now more than 20 years later, we still play Halo weekly. So, yes, the Halo franchise is my favorite gaming institution, even if, of course, there are some other games that, for nostalgic and reasons of different genres, I hold on the same level. Nevertheless, the point is, this track is another one by Martin O'Donnell and Michael Salvatori, who I think made all the tracks from the original couple games, or maybe even the original 3 games. Certainly the first 2 games, Halo 1 and Halo 2. In any case, this track is called Under Cover of Night, and it's one of the best tracks in the Halo 1 soundtrack. I don't know if it plays before this, but there's a part on a level called Two Betrayals, which is closer to the end of the game. It's maybe like the second or third to last level, and there's a section where the levels are comprised of different sections, and sometimes when you get to the next section, a caption will come up and it gives a tagline or a title to that part of the level. And I'm thinking of a part in Two Betrayals when you walk out and you are indeed in nighttime. It takes place under cover of night, and you're now fighting multiple different types of enemies and trying to escape the Halo ring that the game takes place on, and with a sense that there's a graver danger than you ever expected when the game began. And this track plays, and it has this nighttime ambience. There's an epic scope to it, even if it's a mellow, down-tempo type of track, sonically speaking. And it starts with a true ambient sound, but then eventually some percussion comes in. It's just a very atmospheric tune sonically, but in the game specifically. And as I indicated at the beginning of this intro, part of what drew me to the Halo games, the main factor was the gripping and atmospheric narrative campaign mode. And I think this track in the soundtrack perfectly encapsulates the way I was just riveted when I was first playing the game. So let's give it a listen. This is a tune by Martin O'Donnell and Michael Salvatori. It is called Under Cover of Night. Give me one moment here. Yes, Under Cover of Night, and it's from the Halo 1 or Halo Combat Evolved soundtrack from 2001. Incredible. It's a masterpiece. It's just an absolute masterpiece. And, you know, again, it's so atmospheric in the game. Now, fair to say, when you're hearing this, there is there are multiple types of enemies shooting plasma weapons and rocket launchers at you, so yeah, you have to be on your toes, but even so, when I was first playing the game, the soundtrack absolutely stood out, and there were parts, this tune maybe more than any other, where I just wanted to, like, let me go hide behind a tree somewhere, because I just want to hear this track, like, holy crap. So yes, it very much sounds like going under cover of night, trying to avoid being seen by a hostile alien confederation and or a ridiculously ravenous plague-like, I don't even know what you call them. Basically, there's a species in the Halo universe called the Flood, and they're the big revelation of the first game. You don't even know they exist at the start, and halfway through, you stumble upon them, and they're unfortunately unleashed, and that becomes a way larger worry than anything else that your character or the human species is dealing with up until that point. And by the end of the game, you're fighting both sides, like wars on both sides, and just trying to escape. And so this track is playing while both types of enemies are trying to kill you, and so it's just a really great moment in the game, and the music just gives it this intensity and depth. I love the like choral synths. I think they're like voices, but they're sort of played in like a keyboard style. I love that tribal style vocal, which I wasn't remembering going into the track. Of course, I love the ambience of it. Indeed, I was thinking like the ambient melody, it reminds me a bit of John Mark's work, which that reminds me I got to get back to finish the Land of Merlin album and start going through another John Mark album. But yeah, it has that like keyboard ambient feel. It does also have that percussive drive in the second half. I love when it gets to that really epic melody. Like both parts I sort of, gestured because that's my favorite part. But I love it especially in the second time it comes around because it has that percussive rhythm in conjunction with it, and also that tribal style vocal that reminds me of like a Enigma or Enya track. I also enjoy the austerity of the tune. Again, it has some percussion, but it's not big booming drums, and there are other tracks in the Halo Combat Evolved soundtrack that have big rolling percussive drums and a more bombastic sound, but this one, it sets the stage as if you're trying to sneak away and under cover of night escape this Halo ring, which has become far more of a nightmare than you might have any otherwise thought at the beginning of the game. So it's a great game, it's a great soundtrack. Shout out to Martin O'Donnell and Michael Salvatori. Shout out to all folks who continue to play Halo, or those that at least remember the early days and the first few games. And indeed, that's not a knock on the more recent games, but the first 3 games, or actually the first like 5 games, but 2 of them are sort of sub-games, they're all made by the original studio, Bungie. Eventually, 343 Studios, which was more directly affiliated with Microsoft, they took over and they made Halo 4, 5, and Halo Infinite, and those are good games, especially Infinite, which is the most recent one. But there is something magic about the first 3 games, the original trilogy. So as I go through reactions from the Halo world, sonically, or in terms of audio reactions, I plan on going through the soundtrack from those games, maybe eventually branching out into the more recent ones. But yes, those are the ones that I'm going to focus on to begin with. So yes, as I said, shout out to my friend Chris and all others who've been checking out these video game music reactions. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.